The supplies you'll need to make this tote are remarkably simple. I have made it as a 3-color, 3-fabric project. So I've got a postage stamp and a red for the triangles, and I'm using a black for the background and also for the lining. To cut out the blocks, you will need either the coordinating Accuquilt die or the 12-inch Westerly patchwork pinwheel block set in the 12-inch dies, and then I have webbing that I'm using for the bag handles. The piecing for this tote bag is really straightforward. Since we're dealing with just 2 pieces, you have an A in 2 different colors, and then you've got a B and a BR or a B reverse. So you are going to take one of your A units, stitch a B and a B reverse to it to make a kind of a oblong flying geese type unit, and you will do that with both colorways. Your block is right here. There are 4 flying geese in every block, and this is one block right here. Now, what I've done for this tote bag is I've made 4 of this block with the red triangles coming together in the middle, and then I have also made 4 of this block with the postage stamp, the fabrics coming together, pointing each other in the middle. So once you've done that, you're going to make 4 of each block, stitch them together into a row, and then sew a 3-inch strip onto the bottom of the row. After that, sandwich it with just your batting, and you're ready to quilt. Before I start talking about hooping, I wanted to point out that I did make the decision to actually sew baste this quilt top down to the batting before I put it together. Now this is a tote bag, no backing, just the batting and the outside of the tote bag. But there are a lot of kind of fiddly points going on right here, and you can see right here I already have one that was starting to come unsewn on me. So I did baste 1/8 of an inch away from the edge to hold everything in place and stop these edges, these corner pieces from starting to want to come unsewn while I am handling it while I'm doing the quilting. Now for the quilting, this is going to be very easy because I have a block right here. This is a 6x7 block, but it is a block and it has a center, which is right here. To make it a little bit easier to see, I've drawn some of the lines a little bit darker. I've got some onto the batting, and I've got some white going on here and here. Take the center marks on your hoop, line them up with those marks right there, and you are going to be hooped straight so that your quilting is going to go very, very quickly. So what I'm going to do is take my inner and get that lined up where I want it. Take the outer and slide it underneath. Make sure that that inner is still where I want it, and it is. And I hold down the hoop inner while I take that hoop outer and push it into place, and then just pressing it in. And I am still hoop straight. I am on my line, I am on my line, and I am on my line. So no resizing needs to be done at the embroidery machine. This is quilt and go, and come back and do the next and the next and the next. So you'll do this 8 times, 4 in this row, 4 in this row. And this last bit here, which is going to be the bottom of the bag, just hit that up with some ruler work and do some straight stitching down it. I've gone ahead and loaded the design onto the screen of my embroidery machine, and I see that it is 5.75 by 5.75. So that's the 6-inch design. In embroidery, we always design the blocks just a little bit smaller because we are not perfect piecers. So we want this to be able to fit in your hoop and to fit in your block. The block I have this time is 6 by 7, so I'm going to go over and size that and just stretch it in one direction until it is, that's a little bit too far, about, there we go, 5.75 by 6.75, so it should be about 1/4 of an inch away from the edge of the block, or 1/8 of an inch on all sides, which is just enough to account for my not quite perfect piecing. So from here, I've got the machine already all loaded up with the thread, so I just need to hit embroidery and then put my hoop on the machine. The machine and everything's all lined up, but let's just double check that real quick. So here is the center, and that looks like it's lined up from a real perspective. Here's my bottom middle, and it's right on that line. There is my right. Let me just drop that needle down to check it. Yep, that's where I need it to be. Left, also checking with the needle drop. And top is, let's get the needle back up. And there is the top all lined up. So from here, you close that menu, put the foot down, and start stitching. The bag's been finished quilting. You can see here's our stretched out quilting motif in embroidery, and I just did some channel quilting at what will become the bag's bottom. The first thing you need to do is cut a piece of lining fabric that is exactly the same size as your bag fabric. Once that's done, we're going to mark the placement lines for the bag handles. Just marking them right now. So take your finished panel, fold it in half, right sides together, and find the center of that side right there. Once you've marked the center of the side of the bag, mark 2 more lines that are each 2 1/4 inches away from that center mark. And what those marks are going to be are your placement marks for your bag handles. We'll be lining up the bag strap on the outside of these marks. So here's the mark. The bag handle is getting attached away from the center. Now that those are marked and the bag lining is cut, step 1 is we're going to make a barrel out of this bag. So take these right sides, keep them together, pin if you need to right here, and we're going to sew that together with a 1/4 inch seam. So there is that sewn together. This is the top. So now we're going to sew the bottom portion of the bag as well. Straight 1/4 inch seam. So here is kind of the basics of the bag. So those same 2 seams on your lining piece. When you're sewing the bottom portion of the lining together, make sure that you leave space for turning. So what I'm going to do is cut mine right here and then come along and finish that seam right here. So now I have about a 4-inch space for turning. If you prefer, you can put it on the side. I tend to like mine on the bottom. Next step is we are going to box these corners. This is going to be boxed at 1 3/4 inches. Not one of those measurements you may be a little bit more used to doing. So I've already marked those on here. So here is my 1 3/4 mark to box those corners. And we're going to do that both on the outside of the bag as well as on the lining. It's one of those things where I really do pin these into place. Mark both sides and I pin it carefully in place, checking that the pin is catching the line on both sides. And I do reinforce this corner. Okay, all the corners are boxed, and you can see right here that with that boxing, the side panel of the bag is that section right there, which is why we did an unusual size to box the corners with. Next step is to take the strapping and pin that into place. You are going to pin that in on the outside of the bag, lined up on the outside of those marks that we made earlier. So here is the strap, here's that edge right here, and that is lining up with the marked line on the inside from previously. Make sure that there's no twist in your strap and pin both straps into place. Okay, those have been done. So now the bag is right side out. The lining is right side in. So we're going to take that bag and tuck it right inside the lining. So, and pin that into place and sew all the way around. There's that all the way through. I'm just going to reach through the opening in the bottom of the bag, and we are going to birth the bag. Tuck that lining right back in. And here is your finished tote bag. Just press this edge over right here and do some top stitching on it. You will be all set to go. And then, of course, close up that opening in the bottom of the bag. This tote bag was made as a 3-color project. You've got the red and the postage stamp for your focus colors, and the black is the background. This right here is the block, which is the same block as you can see right here. That's that same stacked triangle block using A's and then B's and BR's from either the Accuquilt PinWheel Die or the Westerly Patchwork Pinwheel set in the 12-inch size. So the variation here is that while all of the B's and the BR's were made out of one fabric, all of the A's have been made scrappy. I dug through my scrap bin and got a lot of fun fabrics that I hadn't seen in a while and used those to stitch this quilt top together. Has 2-inch cut pieces here for the sashing and also the outer borders. It finishes to about 32 by 32. It is set 4 blocks tall and 4 blocks wide. 3 colors or scrappy, the choice is yours.